So good morning, everyone. It's so nice to see you today. So before we get started, I just want to acknowledge that we're meeting on the traditional, ancestral, unceded territories of the First Nations and Native American peoples. So those of us who are here in Vancouver are on the land of the Musqueam, Tsleil-Waututh, and Squamish nations. But I know many of you are on the land of other nations. So if you'd like, please feel free to write those nation names in the chat now. And always, let's remember our connection to our siblings in these nations. And let's pray for the day in which we might be with them in right relationship. So welcome. Welcome to Living Interfaith. Know that the whole of you is welcome. You're not asked to leave who you are in your own homes. Please bring who you are in with you this morning. But what you are asked to remember is that everyone around you has brought who they are in with them as well. And all of goodwill are welcome. And now, when they're ready, Bruce and Cheryl have an opening song for us. Beautiful. Thank you so much. So before we get started, we just have a few announcements. Our first announcement is that since it's the end of the year, now is when we invite folks, if they are not yet a member, or if they aren't sure if they're a member, if they would like to join. Right now we have 40 members, which is very exciting for us as our small group. And it's very rigorous to become a member. What you have to do is you have to tell us you want to be a member and send us $5 at some point, or a minimum of $5 if you've already donated. So, and that's all you do. And then what that guarantees you is then if you want, you get to be added to our membership list where we have our contact information, whichever you'd like to share with others. And that's shared among the member list. So that way, if you'd like to be in touch with other folks, that's an easy way to access that. So I think that's really lovely. As I mentioned, I think at our last service, the idea for starting this community was to have kind of a hub, a place where people from different faith traditions and spiritual practices can meet each other and get to know others and kind of develop these friendships and relationships. So that's a really fun way to do that. So if you would like to join in that way, just shoot me a message in the chat, or you can reach out to us later at livinginterfaithsanctuary@gmail.com, and you can join our list. And if you're already a member, we're so happy to have you. So thank you so much, friends. Also, there are going to be 2 opportunities to get involved more if you'd like. One is happening right after the service today, which is that we're going to be meeting right after this. And we are going to be planning our services for the coming year. So the idea is we meet twice a month, the first and third Saturdays of the month from 10 to 11 o'clock. We're usually a bit after 11. And each major faith tradition gets a maximum of 2 services a year devoted to them. But we try not to do them near each other. So we don't have one month where we celebrate only one thing. We usually space them out. And we figure out what we're going to honor. And then we have a rule that we only ever preach on our own faith tradition or share about our own tradition. So otherwise, we reach out to people from other traditions to get them to join us. So it's really fun. So actually, the planning meeting is really fun because people say, like this last year when we had this, we said, for Christian holidays, we've done Christmas and Easter for a long time. And one of our Christian members said, it'd be really fun to do Saint Francis of Assisi, the blessing of the pets. So let's do it. So we put it on the calendar. And then as one of the Buddhist members, I got to say, I really love Bodhi Day. Let's do Bodhi Day. But instead of doing Vesak, another time of the year. What if we do Chinese New Year this year? Yes, that'll be really fun. And so that way we kind of get to mix it up and get to learn new things and hopefully meet new people over time. So if you'd like to stay after the service at 11:30, whoever is interested can stay after, and we'll plan the services for next year. And then also, as was sent out in our MailChimp newsletter, I'm going to be going on sabbatical for 3 months. So I've been leading the community for 5 years, and I'm tired and I would like a break. So I'm going to be away January, February, and March. And so other people are getting the opportunity to lead the services. And there are really 3 ways to take part. It's leading the services, it's doing the candle lighting prayer, which Rachel has wonderfully been doing over the last many months. And it's also leading the joint affirmation. So I can put this little spreadsheet. Rachel is our managing director. She's extremely organized. We wouldn't be anywhere without her. She's fantastic. And so she put together this spreadsheet that I'm going to share here. And so while I'm away, if others would like to sign up in any of those capacities, that will help Rachel stay organized. And so she doesn't have to do all the things. And it'll be fun. And that way we can kind of have shared ownership. We're not remotely a hierarchical kind of place. It's very much like everyone brings who they are and we all contribute. And Bruce and Cheryl contribute the music, and it's amazing. And so, yes, so if you'd like to take part in that way and help lead the services over the next few months, that would be really fun. Thank you. And then I wanted to let you know that next Sunday, December 10th, Voices for Peace is going to be hosting an event at the Bator Rahman Mosque in Delta. They're going to be bringing together Jews, Christians, and Muslims to come together and offer prayers for peace for the Middle East. That'll be taking place that day, Sunday, December 10th, from 1:30 to 3:30. And if you're interested and would like to RSVP, you can do so here. So I'll just put that in the chat as well. And then finally, we now have an Instagram page. So many thanks for those who created the page. And I believe that was Rachel. So thank you for that. And I'll just put that in the chat as well if you'd like to be one of our new followers on Instagram, or if you'd like to contribute to that in any way. So that's what I have. Does anyone else have any other announcements they'd like to share now?
I don't have an announcement, but I have a confession that I don't know when somebody puts a link in the chat. I don't know how to get it after the service because I don't have time during the service, obviously, to look at it. And I have never learned how to do that. You can explain it later to me, somebody. I don't want to take time in the service, but unless it could be explained very quickly.
Oh, no problem at all. So those links are all in the MailChimp email that Rachel sent out 2 days ago. So if you don't get that, I can forward it to you. And otherwise, if you or anyone else would like, I can just copy and just quickly send an email.
If it's in there, I know how to get that. Yeah, I just didn't realize. Okay. Thank you.
No problem. No worries. Thank you. Anyone else?
I'll just give a small announcement. One of our council members, longtime council members, Bryn Crafey, who I was hoping would be here this morning, but I don't see him here, is retiring off the council. Some of you know him from years ago. He was more active previous in the early years of our council or of our sanctuary. But he's going to be stepping down from our council, which we're sad to see him go because he brings so much experience. So I just wanted to send a kind of formal in this space and in this being recorded as well to extend our love and appreciation for everything that he's contributed over the years. He was one of our founding members as a council member and brought so much energy and knowledge and just his passion for interfaith work. So just as a community, I just wanted to let everybody hear that it's happening, that he's stepping down, and we can kind of collectively send him off with our best wishes and our love and our gratitude for what he's offered over the years. So this is to Bryn. We'll take a brief moment here just to say thank you to Bryn. So yeah, thank you.
Yay, Bryn. Oh, thank you, Dorley. Bryn's been amazing. We've been so lucky to have him this whole time. He gave one of the best Easter sermons I've ever heard in my life a few years ago. And we do have a link to our website if you ever want to hear it. He's really an amazing speaker. And has just brought so much here. So we'll definitely miss him. So yes, let's come into silence now. And we can do our opening prayer. So this is a passage from the Metta Sutra. May every creature abound in well-being and peace. May every living being, weak or strong, the long and the small, the short and the medium-sized, the mean and the great, may every living being, seen or unseen, those dwelling far off, those nearby, those already born, those waiting to be born, may all attain peace. Let no one deceive another. Let no one despise another in any situation. Let no one from antipathy or hatred wish evil on anyone at all. Just as a mother with her own life protects her own child from hurt, so within yourself foster a limitless concern for every living creature. Display a heart of boundless love for all the world, in all its height and depth and broad extent. Love unrestrained, without hatred or enmity. Then as you stand or walk, sit or lie down, until overcome by drowsiness, devote your mind entirely to this. It is known as living life here divine.
So for the candle lighting prayer, I thought I would do, I would chant the Heart Sutra, and I'm not the most talented chanter, so forgive me if I breathe at odd times. But this is something they do every morning in the Zen monastery. Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva, doing deep prajna paramita, clearly saw emptiness of all the 5 conditions, thus completely relieving misfortune and pain. O Shariputra, form is no other than emptiness, emptiness no other than form, form is exactly emptiness, emptiness exactly form, sensation, conception, discrimination, awareness are likewise like this. So Shariputra, all dharmas are forms of emptiness, not born, not destroyed, not stained, not pure, without loss, without gain. So in emptiness there is no form, no sensation, conception, discrimination, awareness, no eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, mind, no color, sound, smell, taste, touch, phenomena, no realm of sight, no realm of consciousness, no ignorance and no end to ignorance, no old age and death and no end to old age and death, no suffering, no cause of suffering, no extinguishing, no path, no wisdom and no gain, no gain, and thus the Bodhisattva lives prajna paramita with no hindrance in the mind, no hindrance, therefore no fear, far beyond deluded thoughts. This is nirvana. All past, present, and future Buddhas live prajna paramita and therefore attain anuttara samyak sambodhi. Therefore no prajna paramita is the great mantra, the vivid mantra, the best mantra, the unsurpassable mantra. It completely clears all pain. This is the truth, not a lie. So set forth the prajna paramita mantra, set forth this mantra and say gate gate paragate parasangate bodhisvaha prajna heart sutra.
Can I say a prayer as well?
Yes. Yes, that's okay. Rachel, thank you so much for doing that.
Yeah.
It was beautiful. Yes, Parvane, would you like to share a prayer now?
Sure, please. Thank you. Oh my God, unite the hearts of thy servants and reveal to them thy great purpose. May they follow thy commandments and abide by thy law. Help them, O God, in their endeavor and grant them strength to serve thee. O God, leave them not to themselves, but guide their steps by the light of thy knowledge, and cheer their hearts by thy love. Verily, thou art their helper and their Lord. Baha'u'llah.
Beautiful. Thank you. And now let's take some time to offer one another a sign of peace. So peace, everyone. It's so good to see you. Feel free to unmute. You can offer peace.
Peace be with you.
Peace to all.
Peace to all.
Everyone.
Peace, everyone.
Peace.
Shalom.
Peace,
Peace.
everyone.
Peace and love to all.
Peace, my friends. Aloha. Peace.
Peace to everyone.
Peace and love for everyone. Very nice to see you. Thank you.
So good to have you with us, Paulji. Thank you. And then when you're ready, Bruce and Cheryl will have another song for us.
Mani Padme Hum. 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 Mani Padme Hum.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. And now I'm going to share our joint affirmation on the screen, and Doralee has generously agreed to lead us in it. So when you're ready, over to you, Doralee.
Thank you. Good morning, friends. Please join me in reciting together our joint affirmation. We come together in peace. We sing together in joy and with love. We worship together in one house, a house with names beyond number. Our paths are many, our beliefs are as leaves, and the tree that we cleave to is nourished by the light of compassion, justice, and mutual respect. May our lives, our beliefs, and our actions help to bring about the world of love we all seek, and let it begin here. Thank you.
Oh, you're on mute, Cathy.
Thank you. I was on mute. Yes, that's when we take some time to pray, to do a brief meditation, whatever that looks like for you. There are so many different needs in our world right now. So definitely feel free to take this time to send your heart and your energy wherever you think is most needed. I know for myself this morning, I'm very, very sad to see that the fighting has resumed now in southern Gaza. I had been reading a great many things about the hostages getting released and the Palestinians who were detained getting released. And I was so happy to think that maybe we were going to have a ceasefire and things were going to get better. But now, of course, the fighting is resumed and it's really bad right now. So I'm going to take some time to pray for folks there, but feel free to send your energy wherever you'd like this morning. We'll pray for a few moments. Thank you. And when you're ready, Bruce and Cheryl have another song for us.
Om
Beautiful. Thank you so much. And at this point, I'm also going to share our donation page in the chat. Just there's no pressure to donate, $5 or even less if you don't want to. But I know many of you do donate to support us, and we're so grateful. And so, the donations go towards supporting Rachel, our fantastic managing director, who does almost all the work here, as well as Bruce and Cheryl and myself. And because we don't meet in a building, we have very minimal expenses, which is really nice, just like the website and the PO box and Zoom and these kind of things. So I assure you that the donations you do give are very well spent. And we're just so grateful for all the ways you contribute to this community. So thank you. And when they're ready, Bruce and Cheryl have another song for us.
From you I receive, to you I give. Together we share, and from this we live. From you I receive, to you I give. Together we share, and from this we live. From you I receive, to you I give. Together we share, and from this we live.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. And today I'm going to be the one speaking, so I'm just going to spotlight myself. And yes, so even though I'm the interfaith leader, I only preach on maybe like 3 times a year, I think, only on Buddhist or interfaith occasions. So, but this week we are indeed celebrating Bodhi Day. So here, I'm just going to get my notes together for this. So yes, I'm going to go over the background on Bodhi Day fairly quickly, because I think a lot of us have spoken about it in the past. I think a lot of us know the story already. So the idea is Siddhartha Gautama had been born as a very rich prince, and his father shielded him from all forms of suffering for the first many, many years of his life. So it wasn't until he was 29 that he finally left the palace walls and went outside and realized that the rest of us, non-royalty members, indeed suffer. He saw the 4 sights, which is of a sick person, an old person, a dead person, and also a holy person. And he had no context for these at that time because, again, he had been free from suffering up until this point, very carefully kept away from suffering. So once he saw them, he wanted to make sense of them. So he left the palace, and for 6 years, he traveled around and became a sadhu, kind of a wandering ascetic, and tried different kinds of meditation, yogic practices, a very intense physical mortification kind of practices, trying to figure out how to free oneself from suffering. Because if it's true that all of us suffer, there must be some reason for it or some way out of it. How do you make sense of suffering? And then finally, he almost starved himself to death as part of this practice and realized, okay, this isn't getting me anywhere. I don't feel like I'm any closer to understanding suffering at this point. So he stopped and he came under a peepal tree or a Bodhi tree and said, I'm going to stay here until I figure this out, till I realize the root of suffering and liberation from suffering. And then there are different ideas about how long he stayed there. Some say it was 1 night. Some say it was 7 days. Some say it was 49 days. There are lots of auspicious numbers in Buddhism. It makes sense because it was originally an oral tradition. So you have to be able to remember things. So if you number stuff, it makes it a lot easier. So 7 times 7 is 49. So that's the number that's usually lifted up as how long he spent under the tree. And during that time, he's trying to maintain his practice. And I think my favorite part of the story, I really like the figure of Mara. Mara is kind of like the Buddhist devil, but he's not as malicious. He's usually seen in a very funny kind of way, where he has this foolishness about him. So he's kind of hiding on the side. And he's like, okay, I have to break the Buddha's concentration. So first he sends out visions of his daughters to try to seduce the Buddha, to get him to stop meditating. And it doesn't work. So he's like, okay, got to think of something else. And so then he tries getting him angry, and then he tries sowing doubt, and he tries these different kind of things. And so in modern times, Mara is often understood as what we kind of do to ourselves when we're doing a meditative practice. So if you think, okay, I'm going to sit, I'm going to meditate. Wait, but I remember to do that thing. Oh, I should stop now. I really need to get up. But if I just write it down, or let me quickly do this other thing that's overdue. And then of course we never get back to it. Or we get distracted thinking about food or something we said days or even years ago that was stupid. And now we're suddenly dwelling on that. And we're not present in the moment. So you imagine Buddha experiencing all the kind of things that we experience when we're meditating. But finally, it's said that Mara got so upset that none of these kind of distractions were working, that he said, well, who are you to escape suffering? Like, all of us have to suffer. Like, what makes you so much better that you shouldn't? And that's when it said that the Buddha saw Venus in the sky. So this like point of clarity, this point of light. And he touched his hand to the ground and said, the earth is my witness. And they said that because he realized he'd been born over and over, in so many of his past lives, he'd done such good in the world, the earth had witnessed him. So the earth is his witness that he's at the point that he can reach enlightenment. And that's the moment that he awakened. So you'll usually see either the Buddha meditating with his hand touching the ground, or you'll see an image of someone meditating with just a little star. And that's considered the moment that he awakened. And so that's what we're honoring this coming week. So it's said that this happened the morning of the 8th day in the 12th month. And so that would be December 8th, which is usually when it's honored in Japanese Zen tradition or in a lot of Western traditions. In China, they're on a lunar calendar. So it can happen anytime between the winter solstice through Chinese New Year. And it kind of moves around in some countries depending on the lunar calendar. But otherwise, it's very common that it's December 8th. So that's coming up now. And I can say as a Buddhist, it's kind of fun because that makes it fall within the month that there are so many other big holidays with Christmas and Hanukkah and Kwanzaa and all of these. And I see that some people, if you've heard of a Hanukkah bush, so the idea that you have a tree in your house with lights on it, it's a Hanukkah bush. Well, the Buddhists have a similar thing that you're like, there's a Bodhi tree. So I'm going to bring a tree in my house. And if I put lights on them, then these are the lights of awakening. And each one is a different color because they're all the different ways you can awaken. And so I kind of cheekily was telling my kids about it, like, oh, this isn't a Christmas tree. What if this is a Bodhi tree? And they're like, it's a Christmas tree. You're not fooling anyone. So I thought that was very funny. So yes, all the different ways to understand this. Oh, that's interesting. And I see a note in the chat. The December 8th is also the Immaculate Conception of Mary with the Magnificat. So that I'm such an interfaith nerd. So I love that idea of like, when do we celebrate the same kind of things at different times a year? What do the seasons kind of bring for us, or how do our traditions overlap? So that's very cool. So that's a bit about the background of what we're celebrating with Bodhi Day. And then it's usually honored. People usually meditate more. Sometimes they stay up all night meditating so they can stop and hopefully have more clarity in the morning. Or they give gifts of dana, that's selfless giving, wanting to help others at this time, or studying the sacred texts more. So really trying to come together in that way, and often coming together with the Sangha. So this is our way of coming together right now. So, but those are parts of the story that you perhaps have heard before. But another part of the story that I find interesting that doesn't get talked about as much is when the Buddha, before he reached enlightenment and before he gave up his ascetic practice, he had 5 companions who he was with for several years. And they were doing some of these really harsh practices together. So eating a very small amount of food, which is how he almost starved to death. Also doing some kind of mortification. There are ideas that if he was beating himself as part of the practice, doing breath control, sleep deprivation, like very intense things, trying to awaken that way by kind of self-harm in certain ways. And so he was doing this for many years, and he was friends with this group. But then he abandoned that because he saw that that wasn't helping. So, but it said that his friends were not happy about him having changed. And even after he awakened and he started teaching, that they held resentment because of course, they believed that their practice was a better practice, but also he changed without them. And so they feel like he kind of moved on. And I think that's a really interesting kind of idea that even when we change, even if it's necessary or for our own good or even the good of the group, that can be something that's really scary or really difficult for other people to accept. So that there's a way that it's like killing the self that is to awaken into the new self or rebirth into the new self. And that can be a cause of sorrow, even when it's necessary. And that can be really hard for people. So I know I teach compassionate listening. And one of the things we often talk about is the drama triangle, that if you're in some period of conflict, even if you yourself are trying to get healthier and acting in a way that would benefit yourself and the group, there's a way people don't really want you to change. They're used to the pattern that you have. So even if you start making better decisions, they'll start kind of changing their behavior in a way to pull you back into that original pattern, even if everyone agrees it's not for the best, because change is hard. It's so hard for us to kind of accept that. And then if we think about times we've seen that in our own lives, where we've changed and other people have maybe resented that, or we've lost them through no fault of our own because they weren't ready for us to shift our behaviors or the way we interact with them. Or other times when we haven't changed, even when we've kind of known that we've needed to, because we've been scared of that. There's the unknown, and also knowing that maybe other people will feel let down, or that's going to be really hard for them to accept. So the teacher Suzuki Roshi is a famous Zen teacher in the Japanese Soto tradition. And it said that his students knew he couldn't really be pinned down. They'd ask questions. And, it's very common in Buddhism to kind of tell koans or kind of long stories that then there are a lot of ways to understand. And you have to sit to take the time to understand them. So his students kept asking him about, trying to understand the Dharma. And finally, someone said, what's the shortest way that you can teach the Dharma? And he said, everything changes. So what does that mean? I think that's one of the big things that Buddhism really offers the world, is just the clarity that everything changes. Overall, I think that's really hard for us as humans to understand. Again, even if we don't like things as they are, it's hard for us to accept that. It threatens our identity, that threatens states and social groups and relationships, and it threatens so many things. Even when we all meet and say, here are all the problems in the world, and then we say, well, let's change that. That can be really scary. And so I think it's intrinsic to want to resist change. Even, the idea of the devil is preferable to the devil you don't know. But then understanding in Buddhism that everything changes is like the core of the teaching, and a big thing that I think we contribute to other practices if we can understand that. But then also, because everything changes, we have suffering because we don't want things to change. We have clinging. And so then the way that it's understood that this suffering leads us to two different practices, which are the other two main gifts I think that Buddhism tries to give. One is compassion. So if we know that all beings suffer, then hopefully we can have compassion for all. So earlier I shared from the Metta Sutra, which I really love how comprehensive it is, and how comprehensive a lot of the teachings are, where it says like all beings suffer, whether they are small or great, whether they, are just born or not yet born or very old, no matter where they are in the world, no matter how life manifests, all sentient beings suffer. And because all beings suffer, we can have compassion for them and we can want better things. So I'm going to show quickly a picture, and there's going to be two parts of this, and these are part of the two teachings. Sorry, let me get this for you. A second. So this is a picture of Avalokiteshvara, who's the Buddha of compassion. And so you see Avalokiteshvara has 1,000 arms. It said that you need the 1,000 arms to reach people all over who are suffering. And all the heads are facing in different directions, so you can see suffering everywhere. So that's a manifestation of the compassion. As the Buddha of compassion, they want to reach all beings, no matter what they're going through. But the second part of it, and I think this is very important, is it might not be easy to see in that, but in each hand is an eye. And the eye is also supposed to be, because of wisdom, clear seeing. So how do you have clear seeing? So on one hand, you want to help all beings, or at least Avalokiteshvara wants to help all beings as much as they can. but also how do you have clear seeing so that the way you're helping is as helpful as possible? So that's, I believe I've said in this community, and I often say if folks are coming to me about spiritual direction, that in Buddhism, they say that it's wisdom and compassion are the two wings of a bird. They have to be equally strong so the bird can fly straight. Otherwise, if you have too much compassion but no wisdom, you can help in a way that doesn't benefit the whole. The idea is like giving an alcoholic a drink out of compassion. Well, then that's actually harming. That becomes enabling. Or what the teacher says is idiot compassion, where it's not actually helpful. So that's why you need the eye, so you can see what would be most helpful in the situation. But also, if you have too much wisdom without compassion, it can be too harsh. And that can also make the situation worse. I know I've definitely met people, I'm sure we all have, who say that they just tell it like it is. So they're very blunt. But sometimes, like, when is that actually making the thing worse? If they tell you a truth about yourself, but they do it in a way that you can't even hear it, or you just totally shut down because there's no compassion in their delivery at all. So how do we have both of these? So I love that image of Avalokiteshvara trying to show both of those. And then it's understood that there are a few different ways to kind of match the level of the compassion and wisdom that you have. But a big thing that helps is having upekkha, or equanimity. So how can we have clear seeing in a situation, both so that we understand that what people are experiencing or what beings are experiencing is leading to suffering, and then also what is the best way to go about trying to aid in the suffering or to understand the situation. So that's the purpose of compassion, or the purpose of meditation, is if we take the time to just sit and just be with the emotions as they come, like how Mara kept showing up over and over. And rather than freaking out and getting mad and trying to fight Mara or saying, this is worthless, this isn't helping us at all, we'll just get up and leave. How do you sit and just be with things? So earlier when we were sharing about all the suffering in the world, that's something I've been thinking about so much, is how do we stay in that place, that middle place, where we take in the suffering and we see the suffering clearly and we acknowledge it and we don't hide from it and we don't make it about ourselves, but we also don't try to jump to action in a way that's going to make things worse. We don't just add to the reactivity or kind of making decisions that aren't really going to be helpful. So, and it's so hard to figure out how to do that. I mentioned earlier that I'm working with someone right now who's getting ready to do medical assistance in dying, but is trying to figure out what is the best way to do that for themselves so that they stop suffering, while also knowing that their death is going to hurt their family. What would be wisdom and compassion in that situation? How do we have the most clear seeing? And how do we act in a way that benefits the most people? I had another faith leader yesterday send me a letter about the situation in Israel and Palestine. And they said, can you read this and let me know if this is something I should sign? And it's very difficult. These situations are very difficult because how do you contribute in a way that will benefit the most beings? So standing up for justice, standing against violence, fighting for things that will benefit the most people without making an intractable situation even more intractable. Last week at the church where I work, there was a demonstration having to do with the safe drug supply in Vancouver. And right now, I think across Canada, but definitely in BC, dying of a drug overdose is the most likely way that people between the ages of 19 and 59 die. It's the biggest cause of death. More than 13,000 people have died from drug overdoses, from toxic drug supply since 2016. So how to advocate for a safe drug supply while also making sure that the drugs get to the people who need them and are not then distributed to other people who otherwise do not need them. These things are so difficult. And I think in our world, it's, earlier when folks were saying, what are some of the situations we have now that have maybe always been true? And I think it's so easy to just want to say, oh, just do this. This is the right thing. Just do this. Or, you know what? I found the leader. I found the one teacher. I'm just going to do what that teacher tells me. Or I'm just going to just act in this one way. But that's not clear seeing. So I think the gift, hopefully, that we get from Buddhism and that we get from a practice is how do we stay with the difficulty? How do we stay in it so we can figure out how to have true compassion with all beings, but also how to act in the way that's going to benefit the most people? And I don't really know how to do that. It's a very weird thing being a spiritual teacher and having people come to me with these really complicated things and saying, what should I do? I'm like, oh my gosh, I need to go back on the mat and meditate more to figure out what to do. Life is very, very complicated. But I think that if we stay with it and we don't just get scared and act and just do the first thing or run away and try to hide ourselves, I have faith in us. So as beings, as a Sangha, as a world community, I have faith in us that we can do it, but we have to be willing to stick with it. So that's the benefit of remembering that Buddha was there for 49 days. I have a hard time meditating for an hour at a time. I find that really difficult. And he's sitting there for 49 days and not getting up and not giving up. So I hope that'll be inspiring to us and helpful for us to remember as we try to deal with all of this. And I just wanted to close with this passage from the Gate of Sweet Nectar Ceremony. This version is courtesy of Krishna Das. It says, calling out to hungry hearts everywhere through endless time. You who wander, you who thirst, I offer you this Bodhi mind. Calling all you hungry spirits everywhere through endless time. Calling out to hungry hearts, all the lost and left behind. Gather round and share a meal. Your joy and sorrow, I make it mine. So Bruce and Cheryl have one more song for us, and I'll do the closing blessing. Beautiful. Thank you so much, Bruce and Cheryl.
I
And
just have to
friends-
say that was so beautiful. I just have to say it. I loved it.
It was wonderful. Thank you, Steve.
Thank you.
Amazing. So friends, happy Bodhi Day. Go forward and trust that you too can awaken from suffering. The suffering doesn't have to be true for all of us all of the time. That together we can help one another with wisdom and compassion and clear seeing, can support each other, make decisions that benefit all, and trust that we're always in this together. And one day, indeed, we're all going to awaken.